to last day of the year. Um, and we have our guest, Jason Warwick. And we're going to talk. I put in the description, uh, Living A Course of Miracles, um, because it seems to me what you're doing, that your life is literally dedicated to living A Course of Miracles.
That's my practice. Yeah, definitely.
Um, and how long? How long have you been? Um, well, when did you first discover the course, and how long have you been um, where it's been a living force, a living energy in your life?
Well, I I found the course actually after I met David Hoffmeister.
Oh wow,
So it was a unique situation that I'd already sworn I was never going to do another course. I needed to see somebody that was acting it out, demonstrating it in a way before I would ever do anything like another course. I'd already done every self-help book that at the time I could find or whatever that was meaningful. So I then picked up the course after I met him and thought, oh, maybe this was worth it. But to answer your question, I thought I was living it once I started reading the course and practicing it myself for 2 years. I actually went around for a few years around the world living on divine providence, practicing accepting invites and living how I thought David did. And so, in a sense, you could say I was practicing it, but I think it was several years after that before I saw that this isn't, I still brought the collecting mind, trying to get something, find a key to the kingdom. I brought that with me into applying the course rather than seeing it was undoing. So once I really figured it out, like in a real way in my heart, that it was an undoing, that's probably the real living of A Course in Miracles that started. So that was probably maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah.
you think in uh, retrospect that reading those self-help books, which self-help books always seem to be about gaining something, gaining confidence, gaining a voice, gaining strength, gaining abundance. And you just said the course is really about uh, removing the blocks, removing all the things that prop up the ego. So you think it maybe it took you those 2 years uh, to reverse what you had done with all the self-help work that you had done?
Well, I don't think in those 2 years I necessarily reversed. That's a funny way to put it. So, but that's really cool to look at it that way. Like self-help is just adding layers of context, the context concepts
Right.
on top, and it all has to be undone. In some sense, I was gaining a confidence, but even that confidence was a false confidence that had to be stripped. So no, I think it took more than 2 years. It took 2 years to stop trying to understand the course and, get something from it, and instead apply the course. So the application of undoing the self-help just started actually after the 2 years of applying the course, starting the course, so
Right. Um, and you and I had talked before we hit the live button that um, it's really trying to think of the best way to say this. Well, for one, let me go back to that self help. One of the things that we said backstage when we were talking that um, it's counter to everything that we're taught almost from day one. That um, first we're taught the concept of a self, and then we're taught to believe in a self, and then we're taught to strengthen that self. And we think in even that term, self-help. What is the actual self that we're trying to help? Um, and the course basically says your ego doesn't really need any help. The ego's doing just fine doing ego stuff. Um, it's that uh, reversing the process that the world is trying to tell us. Um, you and I were talking about divorce. Um, and divorce can be one of the hardest things to go through uh, for so many. And yet, watching the video, you navigated it with a lot of grace, um, and standing by those principles of love, which really is the opposite of what um, we're traditionally told about divorce.
Yeah. Yeah, when I got divorced, I guess this was probably 10 or 15, maybe 15 years ago, you know, there's two things going on. First of all, I understood intellectually at least, which I don't know if that means much, but that love was meant to be shared amongst everyone, was to feel the love. And so I was aspiring to do it in a loving way. But at the same time, I was still kind of in denial about my emotions and thoughts. So a lot of the maybe anger or mostly despair was repressed, and it was very hard for me to like let that up. And the divorce was actually what facilitated a major cracking somewhere deep in my unconscious that forced me to find a new way to use the course that was really authentic. And it took me a long time to start to really see how much was down there. But so those two things together, trying to find a loving way, and it definitely in the world's terms, like when you had to fill out the divorce papers, Kirsten and I, you have to write something in a box. And it was really funny because you have to write in why you're getting divorced because you check irreconcilable differences. You can't just say we want to. It doesn't work. There's a very set parameters that if you just said you want to, they're like the judge would say you're meant to be together. You have to. So if this is a guided divorce, because there's guided marriages and guided divorces, you kind of had to go with the world symbols. So it said, "Why are you getting divorced?" And I said, "Well, it's this. We're just different phases of our journey." And she's like, "Oh, that's not true. We're both studying the course and everything's good." And so she said something, and I'm like, "Oh, we can't write that. That's not true." So we put in the box, we can't agree what to put in this box. So, but we ended up changing it and basically saying something like, our journeys were such that we couldn't go deeper into healing, and healing was our prime purpose in this life. We had what the course calls like a number two relationship that had maximized. One is a casual encounter. Two is you come together for a sustained period for a fairly intense learning situation. And my confidence in the course and being stronger was meant to go up, and Kirsten really helped facilitate that. But any part of that confidence that was false needed to fall. And as long as I had her in my life, it was like I couldn't let it go. I Because in relationships, Jesus brings them together so that you can heal. And in that particular relationship, Jason, like that part of me wanted to be with Kirsten in a personal way. And it knew that I had to be strong and confident to keep her. So that was going on. And at the same time, I had this strong desire to heal. So they were in conflict. So I had to let go of the relationship in order to fall apart, actually.
Well,
So,
how long did it
yeah.
take to gain that perspective after the divorce, or were you pretty clear what was going on? Do you think?
No, I wasn't clear. I just knew something wasn't working and I wasn't happy and I was upset at her in terms of like I thought she was playing a role, but I didn't know what was wrong with me either, and I just thought I can't live this way. And there were a couple other little things that where I felt my needs, not that they were real needs, but personal needs weren't being met, and maybe use them as an excuse. But in the end, I didn't make this decision alone. It was done through a lot of prayer. I live with others and who are also devoted to that same purpose. And we all, David Huffmeister, and a couple others, we sat down and really talked it through and just felt like, okay, this is the
I,
next step.
I
So
was going to ask if um, this was during your time with David, right?
yes, ever since the course, except for the first 2 years where I just traveled by myself, I've lived with David. Yeah.
What was it? Uh, with David. For those who might know, we're talking about David Hoffmeister. David was he was one of my first guests um, through a nice little synchronistic event. Um, I had sent a message to David to see if he would come up, and he said sure he would get back to me. And on Mondays, I do a little talk with a friend of mine about every Monday at 1, talk about A Course in Miracles. A friend and I, we just get up and we talk whatever comes to mind of A Course in Miracles. And she told me that she had family coming to town and she wouldn't be able to make it Monday at 1 o'clock. And, I said, that's fine. And not more than maybe an hour or so later, I get a message from David saying, so how about Monday at 1 o'clock? I'll come on up. Um, and it was just so perfect. Um, and he was such the right person to help me realize that this is really what I want to do. Everything was
Mm,
just beautifully timed,
mm,
uh, wonderful conversation. So I could see why um, someone who might be uh, looking for guidance in a course would be drawn towards David. But I was wondering if you could tell yourself why. What was it about David?
yeah, interesting. For see what feels fresh here. Well, the first thing, two things come to mind, but the first thing is when I was in religious science, so which is like Ernest Holmes and basically
Mhm.
all thought always creates, and I was actually a youth pastor, so I was always trying to create the present moment as an experience, and I didn't realize how much unconscious was there. But I remember sitting in the church, and when he said there is no world as an answer to a question, my mind just went like it answered hundreds, if not thousands, of questions that I was trying to figure out. And it was so momentous that I had this mystical experience for a few days where I was like, whoa, what is it? But it felt so good. So I couldn't, I associated that with David at the time, right? But you'd say then, well, couldn't you read that in a book or something? But that was a strong draw. And then I guess I just have these little memories of slowly building faith and confidence because I never thought of a teacher or guru. It just didn't grow up with that mentality or community, or it was just like, no, you do this yourself, that was the but I would just make little trips and I would just notice and feel by the way he answered with such integrity and respect and never forcing something and never never asking for anything, like, where you could feel like somebody wants something from you. And I don't know, maybe that was even a big part. The dynamics that I'd set up in my
Yeah.
life was such that I was gonna be the responsible one to truly meet people that didn't need anything from you was probably I could feel it on a fundamental level. So I just felt, "Okay, I can open up in this vibe and go deeper and deeper." Yeah.
And you've been with David now for how many years?
Well, I met him in 2002 and then traveled around, volunteered since 2004, and lived full time since 2007. So it's 2025, 18 years full time living.
Well,
Yeah. Did I calculate that right? I don't know.
um, and David's always been now. This was my first when he came up on the live stream. My first, one-on-one encounter with him. But I've read his books. I've watched him videos, and his message is always loving and, as you said, authentic, and more than anything, just open. Um, like he accepts you and whatever questions uh, immediately on the spot without um, any wish. It doesn't even seem like a teacher so much as just someone who imparts love, imparts wisdom and insight in such a natural, easy fashion.
Yeah. I think That's what like a living demonstration means to me, is like almost like you can feel it emanating out, and it is in orbit. Like there's nothing casual with being with a teacher or awakened mind or someone that's just exuding love. They're all metaphors, but it's like you're drawn into it, where your mind has to lift up and be in it together. Eventually, what could seem like a dependency in the beginning, through being going out and traveling and extending and coming back and washing, it's meant to equalize in the sense of like you just feel a sense of equality. But it's either that, like you're joining in it, or whatever's in the way of it comes up very, very quickly. And you can't help but feel uncomfortable and have to find a way to work through that with the spirit. You can't just put that on somebody. You have to work through it authentically. So,
Right.
yeah.
And you said it was his words, um, that there is no world, that really struck you.
Yeah. Somebody was asking some question, but maybe about the Bermuda Triangle or something. And he said, there is no wor-" I was like, yeah, how's he going to? Because I was big into conspiracy theories and grew up with that quite intensely. So I'm like, yeah, what's he going to say about the Bermuda Triangle? And he answered, there's no world, so there's no Bermuda. I was like, what? Never-
Um, how? Why did that strike you so deeply? Do you think?
Well, all questions of what should I do with my life, or what's my calling in form? Like, what do I be when I grow up? Should I save money? What is awakening? Everything, all those questions, except for how do I heal? All questions except how do I heal and be happy, temporarily just suspended. Because if you take that, there is no world. Well, they take the Course in Miracles, the first three lines. Nothing real can be threatened. God, peace, love. Nothing unreal exists. Another way of saying that would be there is no world. The world is unreal. Herein lies the peace of God. So if you would get that second part, there is no world, really, that's like absolutely phenomenal. So I got it in some kind of a way that just dropped. I really felt like hundreds or thousands of intellectual questions just dropped away. So
Do you think that's the hardest thing to, um, especially maybe for people just coming into the course, or are course curious? There is no world, and um, people want to defend their belief in the world. People want to hold on to it. Even the victimhood, even the horrible stuff that have happened. Um, we want to say, of course, this has happened. Of course, there's a world. Um, what's a way of um, explaining there is no world that sort of gives maybe a non-course student, like for you, um, coming into it, you weren't fully yet committed to the course, and you still had
yeah.
lots of questions. Um, why was it that that statement struck you so deep, and how would you offer it to someone um, who hears that for the first time and thinks, well, that's you know obviously there's a world, there's a
Yeah.
sun, there's wind, there's the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah. Yeah. We seem to be talking right here. I'm going to maybe watch a movie later tonight on a screen in the world, whatever. So, well, the first thing is, maybe I tell you like this, because I don't know if you've ever read Neil Diamond Walsh books, Conversations with God and things. So there was a part that was one of those for me when I was 16 or 17. I was like, oh my God, like broke through traditional religion. But there was a section in there that it said, um, act as if. And that it was one of the secrets was to act as if. And whenever I read that, I was like, act as if you're peaceful or act as if you're strong. And it just never resonated. I thought, I don't like that. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. So it was just a stepping stone, the rest of the book. And then I heard a story one time of David talking with Resta, who's heard like 220 songs from the Angels. They're really beautiful songs. They're all for free on the web and stuff. And she came to him one day and said, "Wait," when she read that in the course, "there is no world." He says it quite directly. And come on, you've gone too far. And David said, "Well, you're to you're to act as if there is no world." And to me, that was very different than what I read with Conversations with God. And what I want to explain it is that, can you live your life where you're not being run by the dictates of an external world? You're not responding to people. Just because people say things, you don't have to live that way. You're not responding to your own fears, which are fears based on the world. You're not responding to things externally, and it gives you a chance to go in and pray and I want to say act, but respond from guidance and strength and guidance, which is like a reflection of the real world. There is a real world. It's not like there's just no world. There's a real world, an inner world that we can live from. And the outer world starts reflecting that more and more. It does show the darkness for a while too, but it cleans and cleans and cleans until there's like a merge, and you're just in the real world until the final step that God takes. So I hope that explains it. It's more that you're just not responding to an external world. You're not the mercy. You're never a victim anymore. And that's the best way to apply the line, "there is no world." You don't have to like, "I'm not going to see a world." That's ridiculous. That's denial. And we don't want to get into that, but we want to really clean our minds to the point where we can feel like we're in harmony with everything. So,
So this should be along the lines of what Jesus said in the Bible, to be in the world, but not of the world.
well, that's approaching it in the sense that at least it's acknowledging you're not of this world, but to still think that you have to be in the world, it will have some pain associated with that, and that belief does have to be let go of as well.
Um, would that be the final step for, we're asked to have a little willingness, and then the final step is done by God. So once we do that little willingness, that we're living um, in such a way that we're not making the world real. Now, of
Yeah.
course, we work, we get up, we do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, but in our hearts, in our mind, we know that it's not real, and we're practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness in a way that shows the world isn't real, showing that I am not a body, that I am free. Um, but then that final step, that's for God, right? The
Yeah.
final removal of the world is for God, of this world.
Yeah, like the Course in Miracles says that the decision to lay the body down was made long ago, and that is I went through a lot of healing in the last year with some body symptoms, and I remember joining with Jesus, and he said, I really could feel that decision to lay the body aside was a joint decision. It was not like I would decide personally or he would decide and I just have to accept it. It was like it was part of a joint decision and I didn't have to be concerned about that. But I was to focus actually on, yeah, living as if there is no world and living as if there is no body. The condition that healing I was going through required me to go beyond the body. And you brought up the point about go about your day as normal. And I just like to say that, just to invite everybody even into the idea that, what does that even mean to live as normal? Because it's not like there are normal thing every like this is where David like blew my mind. This is one of the reasons I joined with David, is he applied this thing where no concern for the body. So you brush your teeth if you're guided, of course, but make sure that it's from guidance as a general guideline and go for it. But he just let go of all body thoughts, and it was such an accelerated path into that presence that you can feel and we all can feel, that anyone can feel if you're have no concern for the body. So you dive so completely into that. He dove so completely into that that it was such a powerful demonstration and made me question, why am I doing the things that I do? And I even want those things to be given and face the fears of just of letting go of routines. So yeah, hopefully I answered everything together.
Um, so do you feel at this point, or maybe close to it, that you are guided in the actions that you take? That um, have you gotten to that point where you feel I'm truly surrendering everything to the Holy Spirit? That um, I'm living my life at that level of complete. I know the course doesn't say surrender, but to me, the word always seems to fit. That um, surrendering my ego dictates for the guidance of the Holy Spirit.
I am definitely living a life of guidance, definitely. And in that process, there's a surrendering. So it's not like, okay, I hear a guidance and then I have to make sure it happens or something like that. It's like that's my part to share, extend, and move forward with. And then in the joining with my brothers, I try to keep a very, very open mind that that is part, almost like part of a bigger whole in a decision. And sometimes what I hear needs a tweaking or a change, or it was just meant to be said. And oh, I didn't understand the whole picture. So it's like, yeah, living a guided life and then trying to stay very, very open to Jesus showing me where I might even be wrong about it and need more clarity or more direction, because this is going to sound funny because most people think, oh yeah, I just want to live a guided life and oh that's it, if I can just live a guided life. But guidance is for the mind's undoing, and it's more important to me that I'm in harmony with my flow of the day and my brothers and sisters, and I feel like I'm just doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, than just being in the guidance, if you can feel what I mean.
Right.
It's like I have to be surrendering and letting go of thoughts and beliefs that keep me deepening, or just being guided and too rigid about it. It's not it for me. So yeah.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Um, at what point does trust come into play? And this is a big issue for me, and I've talked about this with other guests, leading up to Manual for Teachers and getting into the characteristics of God um, and trust, uh, because that undoing um, is painful. You know, I find even after 30 years with the course that I was still valuing the valueless, that I still um, was connected to specific things um, as what they were giving me instead of allowing source to come through, whatever means you know it wanted to. I was very specific, and well, it's coming from this source and this source and this source. Um, and then you start to lose those sources, and you start to lose those connections. You start to,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's tough after so many years when you thought that you had, um, you know, I'm thinking this is in terms of like spiritual ego, that I've reached this place, only to find out that the Holy Spirit says, "Well, no, not so quick.
Yeah.
Like you got a few things that we need to sort out."
Yeah. 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 The funny stories coming to my mind when this girl that used to live with us, she was traveling. She was actually traveling with David at the time, but she used to buy before this time. She used to go and buy. She loves salmon, so she would buy salmon and have the meal. And somehow she got to the point where she's like, "Eh," so I gave it up or whatever, and then was out on the road. And for the first 3, 4 houses that I think they stayed at, the people were offering salmon, and she was like, "Oh my god," salmon was just being given to her, and it was so wonderful and so delicious, but it wasn't because it was the salmon, it was because she knew underneath Spirit or Jesus was loving her and meeting her needs. And I remember talking with David about it after, and he's like, "Yeah, you could have $1 million and go buy salmon for every night of your life, and it wouldn't mean the same thing if you knew that it was being provided for you without any personal effort on your own. Because to know that we're carried and loved and being sucked into that tractor beam is beats everything, and that's the trust that you're
right?
you're talking about." Yeah.
Um, and man, when David talks about it, because we talk about ultimate trust, that David just said, okay, you know, and that's the best way that I think I can explain it was this sort of a cosmic, okay, okay, wherever you want me to go. And, he talked about getting invitations. I think he said South America early on. And he would say, okay, don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know what's going to happen, but okay. Um, to get to that level of trust. And I'm sure, and I didn't ask David at the time, but I'm sure he had his own um, drugs being pulled out from him. I don't think you go from uh, the edge of trust to where David is now without going through those stages that the manual offers.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he would describe it as I'm just going down, 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 being unwound. He or a screw, the screw that's stuck so much into the wall, and you use trust. It's like you can't just pull it out like a nail. You have to slowly unwind it, and because the mind is so, like you said, this is the funny thing is you get given things. This is part of the honeymoon journey of the course. You get given things to show you don't need to rely on your own strength. But then if you reattach to those very things that were meant to unwind you, those need to be unwound too. So it's this constant unwinding of the mind from its fixed position here. So this is what Jesus calls the exchange of concepts. Okay, well, now try this. Now try this. And he's trying to do it in a way that maybe a little fear is felt with each step, but you never lose confidence enough that you fall back down. You just keep going home. So,
I like that. Thank you for that. Um, Jason, you mind answering a question
oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, yeah.
from the chat? Yep. Uh, can we ever trust a person, or do we only trust our limited perception of them?
Well, I actually have a good story that just happened to me recently. But, well, the short answer is that yes, you can trust a person, but not because of the person, but because of what lives inside of them. And what lives inside of them is interlinked with your perception of them. But let me tell you the story is, we're having to make all these decisions in the ministry, and I'm constantly being stretched beyond this idea of overwhelm, that it's possible to be overwhelmed because it can feel overwhelming as you're undoing, like you keep having to let go of control and find the priorities, find what's truly given. And I remember thinking of David when it felt like he was guiding a particular direction, and I was praying to Jesus about it. And I had this feeling like if you put somebody else in the position of hierarchy, or like a guru, or better or lower, but you can't help but see them as a person, and that is not what's being asked. So Jesus, what he said to me is like, David doesn't understand any more than me why these things are coming through him in terms of guidance. He's just following me. This is what Jesus said. He's just following me. The best way you can support is not to think that it's David, but to know that it's me, and support that direction as well. And all of a sudden, David went from this to this. No, we're equals in Jesus, and Jesus is I don't know if you've seen that new Pluribus series on Apple TV,
Uh,
but it's this great show where the whole world has been taken over by like a love bug or something like that. And they all hear the same thing at the same time, what to do, and they don't talk. They're very telepathic. They float. It's really kind of cool if you see it from this perspective. And that's what the opportunity for all of us is, to be such in a flow. We're guided by spirit in equality. We're not supposed to have awe for our brothers. Awe is only for God. We can only have respect and devotion for each other. So yeah, I hope that answers the question about
um, I
just
think you actually just described the basis for forgiveness as well. Um, that we are seeing uh, each other not as um, that's another thing that it's hard for people coming to the course for the first time or hearing about it. Um, why should I forgive? And how can I forgive? How can I forgive when? And they definitely don't like hearing that. Um, you know, nothing your brother has. You know, nothing your brother has really not done anything to you. Um, and they want to hold up the scar, or they want to list the grievances, or um, but as you were saying in the story that you told, that um, we're forgiving in the same way. We're seeing the light within someone and not directly relating to them as a person, but as the light within.
yeah. Well, like I can even just had an experience here with my neighbor where she's got construction going on and all this parking, and I've been praying for it about a week, like, show me what's going on, because some kind of a frustration would arise. And just last night I was praying on it, and a friend of mine went over and really communicated all that would truly be helpful. And my friend was met with a lot of anger back from the neighbor. But so she came back, she shared this with me, and I felt so grateful that she had communicated with the neighbor. So that's the first step. Communicate without an agenda. Share your thoughts, your feelings. That's why we have like no private thoughts as a guideline. Just be willing to share some with a neighbor. You have to use discernment. You know
Right.
that guideline of share whatever is really only when you have someone that's completely linked with you in the devoted path. But anyways, we shared the thoughts about what would be helpful. And then I went into prayer and I thought, well, there's a part of the mind that's still trying to justify, well, the city council says this or whatever. And I was like, okay, I need to go deeper. So I prayed, and I got very specific guidance to help my mind, which I did not expect. It's not your area, I heard. I'm not supposed to be dealing with that neighbor. That's for another member of my household. It's their lesson. My lesson is to see what's underneath this. So all of a sudden, then, why am I thinking of these thoughts? They just completely dissolved. And I said, okay, we have this process called the instrument for peace, where it helps you get in touch with the beliefs that are seemingly causing things to play out. So in prayer, I went deeper and I saw this thought, like, I'm right. So all the justifications were trying to prove this thought that I'm right about something in the world, which is a personal self. And soon as I saw that, it just lifted, and I thought, "Oh my God, I'm so happy. Like, there's nothing to figure out, nothing to solve. I can just stay in that." And all of a sudden, my neighbor, who seemed to be the cause of an irritation or the parking, she completely flipped and she was my savior. She's, "Oh my God, thank you for parking in such a messed up way, because you had to do that so I could see this belief. And then once the belief is released, I don't really care what happens to the parking. Living as if there is no world now. It's like, okay, that's that's how you see nothing happened. Like, did she really do anything with the parking or not? You don't think that way anymore. It was all just a reflection of a belief. So yeah.
That reminds me of David Fishman, Dove Fishman, who's one of the
Yeah.
longest. He was up maybe 2 months ago, and he told me that um, his own at a certain point, he was guided to not keep doing the workbook lessons, to put the book away, and to just live by the guidance that he was offered. That the course led him to this moment of letting the course go. Um, but the one thing he kept with him was lesson 25. I don't know what anything is for. And that really does seem to be, I always like thinking of the course as holographic in its nature. You get one thing and you can get the
Yeah.
entirety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and, as you were saying with your story, that we can easily get caught up in thinking that we know why this person is doing this thing and why this is happening. Um, but when we come back to that lesson of 25, I don't know what anything is for. We're left with that perfect letting go. I don't need to be right. I don't need to know what things are for.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
trust. I can trust.
Yeah. 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 It's almost like you, what a happy way of living now, because you're either in the miracle or the miracle is on its way, because there's a faith or a patience that, okay, even this too, with prayer, will dissolve. It's a different way of living. So,
Um, well, that was absolutely perfect, by the way. You're either living in the miracle or the miracle is on its way. Was absolutely perfect. That was, I think I mentioned this with almost every guest that sometimes I think I'm bringing a guest up uh, to talk to everyone, but what I'm really doing is bringing them up to talk to me, and they have one very specific message that they're going to give me, and you just gave that to me. You're either living in the miracle or the miracle is on its way, and I'm going to carry that with me. Um, thank you, thank you for that. That was huge.
yeah, thank you.
Um, and again, it was perfect. And I hope people in the chat can uh, relate to that. And I think that can be related even if you're not a student of A Course in Miracles. Um, it's the same. It's the same. You're either living in the miracle or the miracle is on its way. And if I'm trying to think, how could we approach that without the language of the Course? Um, you're either living in grace or grace is on its way,
Yeah,
or there's just it all comes down to the same though.
yeah, yeah. Einstein actually started that quote. He said, "You're either in the miracle or everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle," is what he said. But after what you just shared, when you're in forgiveness, it's more like you're in the miracle or it's on its way. You feel it. So it's,
Right.
yeah,
Um, and that really is the importance of forgiveness. We think of forgiveness as um, just when there is um, just when
grievance.
there's a trespass against us. We think of forgiveness as, well, I will forgive you when, um, because what you've done, or uh, but what we're really doing is we're forgiving our own belief that the world is real.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I love I love insights after 30 plus years of studying the course, and you get a fresh insight. And even though you know it, then you just know it a little bit deeper. It goes a little more into the heart.
yeah.
And this um, whole conversation has really felt like a deepening of insight after insight after insight. We have another question, by the way.
Okay.
Is trust a bridge we build towards others, or a mirror reflecting our own sense of safety?
Well, I think it's both, really. Like, whenever you don't feel completely happy with your brother, then it's the beginning. I want to trust my brother, who's one with me. It helps begin the bridge building. And then I would say the experience of being in trust, your brother reflects that back to you. So both work.
Let's see. Thank you for answering the questions, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, So, did you have your own moment on the precipice right before, your own moments of, let's call it a dark night of the soul, or as you're working through that, the characteristics of God's teachers, and we get to trust, um, where you felt like you were losing things and losing things and losing things, and um, you weren't sure if you were ready for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have the dark night per se before the course, but I like a stripping, as I was mentioning a few years into the course, one of the concepts that really was I want to say like a killer for me, but it was just very hard to see and identify. I was living as a teacher, like a course teacher, which is a concept actually. You know, I feel like a true teacher of God is just wanting to demonstrate love and forgiveness, but I was caught in the role of a teacher, and to be stripped of that and not know what was next. And because I had missed some prompts that would probably help stabilize me through that, and because of arrogance, push things away, I went through a very difficult period of having to start over again and find my soul at a core level. What is it I really want? Like truly, do I want community? Do I want relationship? Do I like the course anymore? I have to like and getting to that place honestly was very, very terrifying. Like for me, it was extremely terrifying, like shaking for days, just shaking into weeks. And then, okay, I got to be humble here. I must be thinking something wrong. Let's start over. And it was a slow building, which I think was always Jesus's plan, slowly building step by step, a true confidence in him guiding everything. So then I would never, the big lesson I was always practicing was do not go ahead of me. Do not go ahead of the spirit, because if you do, you think you know something and you're acting on that. So I had to keep watching, oh, what do I think I know here? And let another presence, like Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, that you have tried and tried and tried to teach yourself, but you've never let what you are teach you. And that was a major turn for me. So that's a dark night in a way. Yeah.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned that you had to um, humble yourself a bit, which is another one of God's characteristics, teachers of God's characteristics. And it shows that the path isn't always linear, that you can be demonstrating other characteristics while you're still while you're still working on that issue of
Yeah.
trust, or you
Yeah.
can gain that trust and still be, maybe not experiencing true joy yet. That it's not a linear. You get this, and then you move on to this, and then
Yeah.
this, and this.
Yeah. I used to think it was like that, but more and more I see, especially living in community, like you can see community members or people outside just in such strength in a certain area, like a skill, like teaching or graphics, or they speak so beautifully about something. And then another area of life, they're like a baby, like maybe relationships. They've never had a meaningful, healing relationship with a person, and they're just a baby in that area. And it's like you see, you can never compare or figure this
Right.
out. It's like
Do you think there's a the potentiality in a community for uh, spiritual bypassing? That was that the answer right off the bat? Right off
oh,
the bat,
definitely. It's not a panacea. It's not a fix-all. It can be really helpful to stabilize certain things, but it can become a concept that the ego uses to hide in. Yeah.
right? So very a spiritual ego.
Yeah.
Um, so you, I loved your answer. That came right out. Um, but I mean, I could see how, and I could even see why people would feel justified to bypass if you're around very sincere people and you yourself don't feel very sincere yet. That if you're at people who you're looking at and you think, well, they're at this level, but I'm at this level. Um, that you might want to put out the appearance. You know, you might want to, you know, on a level of perception, jump a level.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like you that wouldn't be helpful if people are doing that, really trying to fake it. What is helpful about it is like it's like tennis, or they always say play up. Like if you're playing with somebody and you want to get better in sports, you have to play with someone who's better than you. Ultimately, there's no levels, and in truth, in the Christ, there is no hierarchies and comparisons. But along the journey, you can definitely learn from the experiences of others. Jesus says that in the course. So if you want to and be around people that have learned and gone through things, you can really speed up your journey a lot quicker. But that's different than acting as if and yeah, faking
right.
it. So
I can see that. What do they call it in quantum physics? Entrainment, when one particle is pulled in uh, the vibration of another particle that might be traveling at a different rate. You got to excuse my very, very faulty quantum mechanics understanding. But I could see why the presence of David would, if using terms of vibration, if I'm cruising along vibrating at this level, and again, like you said, not that there's an actual level, um, and then I get a chance to hang out with David, all of a sudden, without bypassing, I'm pulled up to this greater vibration just through that presence of love, you know, of
yeah,
someone who's just experiencing love. I can't
yeah,
help but be drawn into that love.
yeah. I think experientially that is what it's like for me. And I think even back to the time of Jesus, like all the miracles and all the love that he shared and everyone felt around him. Look at the Pharisees and the Sadducees, I wouldn't say they were saying he was all that loving. The anger and hatred and attack against innocence, that came up just as strong too.
Right.
So, yeah.
I had Beth Greer, um, uh, maybe a couple months ago. She's a great author. I've been practicing the course for quite some time, and you were mentioning, um, Jesus and his miracles and his, let's say, his vibration. She actually was given guidance that she had a lifetime with Jesus, and of course, the spiritual ego was, oh, was I a disciple? Was I, was I close? Was I, someone in that inner circle? And the answer was beautiful. No, you were in a crowd, but you made eye contact, and that made all the difference to bring you to the course at this time in your life.
Oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
so it is. So at once it sort of stripped away the spiritual ego, and at the very same time said, but it doesn't matter. That one look, that one, it shows you even in our lives what one kind word could do to
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, yeah,
What one loving act
yeah,
can do, and we don't know the consequences for how far that will go.
yeah, yeah. That's beautiful.
Um, we have another question. What if your brother disappoints you? You communicate, but you do not feel he is being true. How do you recover trust?
What if your brother disappoints you and you don't believe he's true? How do you recover trust? Well, that brings it back to that question earlier about yeah, yeah, the one around trusting your brother earlier. It's maybe we have to get back to the metaphysics then. Basically, the whole world is a projection of the one mind, and it's ultimately all a reflection. So you don't really trust people, you don't really trust brothers or sisters, but you can use them as mirrors. So if you say, look, I want to trust my brothers who are one with me, that's a stepping stone then to say, well, I'm going to use them as my savior. So whatever they're reflecting back to me is showing me something in my conscious or unconscious that needs to be seen. and I can clear that, and that brings an experience of trust to my brothers. So, yeah.
Nice. I hope that helps your question, my friend.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, another take to that, not take, but, like, that's if there's, like, an issue, which it seemed like the question had, like, a little bit, yeah, a disturbance. And then the other side to that is to stay so open throughout the day that the Spirit or Jesus can speak through all your brothers to you about guidance for you. You just stay so open to, and really tune in to what. So that's another benefit of trusting your brothers. So yeah.
Switching track just a little bit. Um, I really, really appreciate you addressing trust, um, as that has been a reoccurring theme for the last several months for me. Um, and the other one that uh, I'm coming to terms with is our special function. And um, I finally feel, after really a lifetime, that right now for me, uh, I have finally said yes to my special function. Um, Thank you. It's um, why do you think we deny it for so long?
Well, it's because we think it's something else, because we desire it to be something else. Because that was how the ego set up the world, is for you to want and desire things that will keep you trapped here and ultimately do not bring you real happiness. And the special function is something that, albeit in the world, it takes you the other direction. And it's very simple. It's true, if I can use that word. It's humbling. It doesn't enlarge the self concept, and helps keep you in the direction of the spirit. And the world was set up to hide that. So
It's funny how I came uh, around to this by things being seemingly being taken from me and having to pivot in another direction. Um, where um, I thought that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then I find that uh, bumps in the road or situations don't work out, or people who I thought were key central figures leave, and so you pivot, and then it almost seems when it's happening like um, I blindly stumbled upon something, and then when I look back, I see no, I was purposely led um, to this point, and that I didn't lose anything, that things were kindly and gently removed so that I could serve better. Um, and I find myself here on YouTube uh, just wanting to share. That I want to bring guests up. I want to talk. I want to hear their stories. I want to soak in their insights. And then I had Lisa Natoli up a couple weeks ago, and she asked me if I could make um, some clips, some shorts of our talk. And I said, actually, no, not because I don't want to, because I don't know how. Um, and I heard uh, clearly the thought, do you not know how, or you just never tried? Um, and the answer was I had never tried. Um, and I started making clips. And then it was also Lisa who said, um, your function, your purpose, you were only half fulfilling it. It's not about just having guests up and having a conversation. It's about making these clips and these shorts that are easily digestible for just the person to find when they're about to pick up that drink when they shouldn't, when they're firmly convinced that they're alone in the world, when they feel like they can't be forgiven or they can't forgive. Something that someone said you, uh, Jason, um, is going to find just the right person when they need it the most, and it's going to um, change the course of their life. We never know who or how or when,
Yeah, yeah,
um, but we know that it's out there for a reason.
yeah.
And I felt this great big nod of, yeah, that's the way it is.
That's part of your purpose. Yeah. Well, you're very like good at it. Meaning, like you're very genuine in terms of wanting to know what's going on for somebody else, and we can merge in that. So it's very a very natural host. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank
Thank you
you.
for that. Um, so your special function, how did you arrive there? And did you know, like, yes, this is it?
No, I did not know. I thought it was many other things. Yeah, it's a bit, I don't know if it, I'll see how it feels when I say no. But I always had this thought, like I was an engineer actually, and that was an incredible amount of schooling, but I dropped that pretty easily once just hated it. And what I went through, oh, maybe I'm a naturopath. I even went on a vision quest and heard I was a healer, and everything was just kind of like pulling me in the direction. But I always had this like background idea. I wanted to be like Tony Robbins and inspire big groups of people. And
Right.
it was very stressful because it was coming from a self concept. And it took, I would almost like 10 years to understand even what it meant and accept it. I was out with David one time, and do you know Carol Howe?
Mhm.
Have you? Yeah, another Course in Miracles. She's one of the original 5, let's say. I don't know if she's 4, but and we met her in Orlando, and I was asking these questions of her, like, "What's it like?" and da 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 da. Da. And she reached across the table. David likes to tell the story. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand, and she said, "One-on-ones. You're meant to do one-on-ones." And at the time when I heard it, I was like, "That is too simple."
Could could you
But it
complicate it a little for me?
what's that?
Could you
Yeah,
complicate it up a little bit for me, please?
exactly. But as I've watched over the time, it's something in me, like, it's like it's like beyond me. It just gets very, very focused, very natural. I really hear the other person on some much deeper level. They hear me. I almost never have difficulty, like, with communicate. It doesn't matter who or when. And even with certain ones, like, we just did this whole Mystical Christ Academy where 3 weeks everyone was together for, like, 5 hours a day, and they had a real invite. We would join so deeply that it's like we were telepathic, and we could get at root causes of beliefs that would, when exposed, we'd become so happy. I'd feel very, it's like I was doing my own healing with them, like there was no separation. And it's such a natural way to heal that's your special calling. What'd you call it? Special function. So, yeah.
Um, it's always sort of amazing, isn't it, that someone else can see it so clearly before we do, uh, like with Carol
Yeah.
and you. Um, and the two, really the three people that really set me firmly doing this was Alan Ishak. I don't know if you know Alan,
No, I don't know any.
and Vicky Poppy.
And you've met Vicky Poppy, yeah?
Um, and she gave me so much love and said she came up and talked and then said, "All right, let me introduce you to people." And just person after person, she opened so many doors uh, to come up and have a conversation with me. And every conversation, um, it was like I had an intensive study period with them. That I had been studying the course all these years on my own, uh, literally decades. And then all of a sudden, I had a crash intensive with a truly, truly great teacher, which again is what I feel like right now with you. That you know that I have this great fortune of being with someone who uh, deepening the understanding. And it's uh, I don't know how long. I think everyone studies the course for however long they should be studying the course, and even in the end of the text, it says, uh, surrender the course, come, let everything go, and that's what David Fishman said for him. But for me, even after 30 years, it's just like I'm having one uh, revelation after another with every guest that comes on. There's like an onion, another peel, another layer, um, and it's just so. I end up at the end of every one of these conversations feeling infinitely lighter than when I started.
That's sounds like a special function. It's like, that's beautiful.
Um, well, also, I think the special function of the guest as well,
Yeah.
um, because what you're offering me is definitely something that I can only get from you.
Mm, beautiful.
Pretty amazing. Let me check for questions real quick.
Yeah, making sure that my battery doesn't die here because of
Well, we'll wrap it up in just a few. Uh, I
80%.
I told you that we're usually about an hour, hour and a half tops, and we've passed the hour mark, which really just has flown by.
Yeah.
Um, I very much appreciate it. So before we wrap things up, what are things like with David? What are things like uh, living in a ministry? Um, I don't want to call it. It's not really a commune.
No.
Um, what would be the description that you would offer? Community.
Well, it probably depends on where you're at in your journey because I really believed in the beginning I was joining a community, a group of people that would share things, get together, discuss thoughts, and heal together. It was like a big adventure. And that's probably most, I don't know for sure, but a lot of people's experience for a while is, but then I had this very big change of heart with it after that phase where I told you I went through the questioning of what's for me, what do I want. Once I really made sure that every real thing was coming from a place of I know it's guided, I know it's for me, my whole heart is behind it. Um, I didn't feel like I was living in community with people. It was more like, okay, this is the given backdrop for me to practice forgiveness. Okay, it's given. I'm in. I'm not going to try to make it happen or whatever. And so yeah, there's still lots of encounters and people, but it is a very different experience than actually living in community. It's like a chosen backdrop for healing, but it is community. So
Right.
yeah.
What what would what's the daily life like in the community?
Well, probably for most of us now, well, to me, I get up about 5 to 6:30 some, but I'm preferring more to 5 lately. I go to bed about 11. And for me, every day, it's about 90% of it is communication. It used to be a lot of movie making and editing and putting, like you were making clips, like I did a lot of that kind of stuff. We have people that work on publications to share the books and materials. We have others that love gardening. Um, we have we just did a 3-week program where everybody was sharing movies and insights. But for me, it's mostly communication, 90% of my day, and then little rest periods. But I'm on this chair almost all my day. So
Um, and I guess you find time for your own, uh, let's call it contemplative practices, prayer time, and
definitely. It's very clear for me. Like I find night times harder. Like for some reason, it's just to focus on letting the mind rest in preparation for for sleep. But for me, the contemplative time is in the morning. I wake up and it's like I don't know why, but things are just much clearer, much easier to hear the spirit and guidance, set my prayer for the day, what I want the day to be like. I don't really do the course lessons like linearly anymore, but I I love the rules for decision section, like how do you want your day to be? So I'll write a little sentence or paragraph and then try to remind myself throughout the day of that just to keep the focus. And then my favorite thing is that either that night or the next morning is to receive all the insights about how the spirit answered my prayer. And I just can feel myself lifting and lifting, like, wow, like, oh my God, this is such a great life. Like that is how I experience the contemplative part of it.
Nice. I like that. Um, do you think, like in summary, in a quick summary, the rules for decision making? Does anyone in the chat who uh, might like to hear?
Yeah. It's I think it's near the end of the course. And he said, you must have learned by now that there are certain things that will help you have the day you want. And since everything comes from your desire, you do have to want to have a happy day. And if you want to have a happy day, you must have learned by now that you cannot set the terms of what that day should look like. So, to the extent you can let go of your agenda for the day and let the day come in, you are well prepared and well advanced. So basically, that's the simple rules for decision. I will not judge in advance what kind of day I'm going to have. But then the rest of the rules for decision is in case you do judge and set your plans, ways to keep coming back to that first rule of don't judge what kind of day you need. So that's the rules for decision of a day.
I like that. I like to begin my day with the that very simple prayer of um, that I will make no decisions on my own today. Uh,
That's in there, I think. I think
yeah,
that's in the rules for
it
decision.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what should I do? Where should I go? What should I say? And to whom?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, to and of course, I immediately get out of bed and start making my own decisions. Um, but I get to come back, and
Yeah.
that's the great. That's what I love about the course is, you always get to come back. It's never um, there's no punishment. There's no you did this wrong. You've sinned. Uh, wow, what a horrible. I think I've mentioned this several times. Kenneth Wapnick saying, um, a good course student is a bad course student who forgives himself. Um, and it's so I'm not going to say it's easy, but it really is so simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's that whole section, choose once again, is devoted to that you will choose with the ego in your training, but no problem, choose once again, like over.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And uh, Ken Wapnick addresses that as well. It's okay to choose the ego. Just know that you're choosing the ego, and that's such a huge step. When you know that you are, then I think, okay, well, do I like what I'm getting?
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, as you just said, choose once again, and you can always choose once again in
Yeah.
any single moment. You can choose again, and we get feedback.
Instant.
Life has always given us some kind of feedback, right?
Yeah.
Um, all right, well, we have one more question. Uh, I'm not quite sure I understand that question. Maybe if you can reword it a little bit. Um, and the question I was going to ask you was I like to think that, again, we were talking about the course being holographic. And I like sometimes, just having one thing that I can pull out, like a card in my wallet that I can pull out and read, or one course lesson or one section. Do you have let's call it sort of a get out of the ego deal free card that you immediately can grasp hold of and it helps bring you home?
Well, it's funny you say that because it's been whatever the day's prayer was for this last year. So it changes. But since today's the second last day of the year, I feel like the lesson came into my mind for the next year. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, is the one that I'm going to carry forward for a sustained period now. Yeah.
I like that. Um, for me lately, it has been what Dove Fishman offered, lesson 25. Um, I just love, I love returning to that. I like to call it the cosmic shrug. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because I find my ego continually saying, "But I do know." Um, you know this, and you know this. You know what this is for, and you know
Mm,
what that is for.
mm,
Um, and of course, I do know ego-wise what this is for, and it's never brought me happiness,
mm.
and it's never brought me peace. Um, so as long as I want to keep holding on to it, as long as I keep demanding that I do know what it's for, um, then I get exactly what it has to give me. But if I turn it over to the Holy Spirit and say, I think I know what this is for, but obviously I don't,
Yeah.
um, help me, help me repurpose this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the Once with that little willingness, the Holy Spirit joyfully jumps in
Yeah. Yeah.
and shows us what it really is for. And everything's for forgiveness, everything's for kindness, everything is for the sake of love. Um,
Yeah.
so, again, simple, but not always easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really like along those same lines these last days, really appreciating the idea of, first of all, nothing I see means anything. And then I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me. Like seeing that it is neutral. The world is literally neutral. And it's us that gives the meaning to it. That's another way of saying I don't know what anything is for, is to stop giving that meaning to everything. But to see that has been so, yeah, inspiring.
Nice. You have time for one more question from someone in the chat.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, does God fill does God fill in the gaps of not knowing? And does that not knowing shrink with acknowledgement?
Well, I think what the question is asking is, well, maybe what I'll just say is that as you come into this space of not knowing, that is where God can fill in that space or that gap with his presence. But we do have to come to that I don't know first. So the presence can come in. Yeah.
Um,
And second part I don't remember, but maybe that answered this.
I think that covered it. The second part was, um, does not knowing shrink with acknowledgement?
Does not knowing. Well, I would say if you believe in acknowledgement, like people saying you did a good job, or if it's that kind of acknowledgement, then it's like the I know mind actually gets bigger. But yeah, so it depends what they mean by acknowledgement. I can't really tell actually. So
And I promise you, the very, very last question. Um, this is a friend asking. Uh, Wants to know that if you got up in the morning and everything was going okay for you, and someone tries to press your buttons, how would you deal with that? Because it's hard for him.
say it again. If you wake up in the morning and your buttons are getting pressed,
Yep. If you wake up in the morning and everything's going good for you, you're feeling good.
yeah,
This is a good day.
yeah,
Um, and then all of a sudden you encounter someone who, or maybe several someones who
yeah.
are trying to press your buttons. How would you deal with that?
Well, it's going to sound like a funny answer, but the first thing is not to get so concerned as if you've lost your good day because of these situations. It eventually you actually want to start questioning, huh, was I even in a good day if I could be so easily had my buttons pressed? So it flips it around from, oh, oh my God, they gave me a bad day, to, oh my God, they're showing me really where
Oh wow.
I'm at. So
Right. Sorry for that spontaneous. Oh wow.
it's great.
But um, literally, oh wow. I'm glad we took time to answer that. I that was definitely going to be clipped, by the way. Um, really, you know, we woke up thinking that we were, hey, everything's okay. And why is everything okay? We would never question that, do we? We just, uh, and then someone presses our buttons, so really just revealing, were we really in that good of a mood to begin with?
Yeah. Like especially in this like Western world, the comfort is so easy to get caught in. It's like, I'm good, but is it good or just comfortable? And so most of us need a shaking up, to be honest.
Sure.
So, yeah,
Sometimes we think being numb is good, you
yeah,
know? If I'm not feeling anything too deeply. Um, and that brings up, what we talked about earlier, bypassing. Uh, because we don't want to feel something. We might say, I'm tired of grieving, or I'm tired of um, whatever it is I'm experiencing. And we do a self improvement method, you know, we, uh, but we don't really acknowledge it. And it's still there,
yeah,
but we've glossed over it. And,
yeah,
we'd rather feel that numbness
yeah,
than the actuality of our experience.
yeah. That's it. That's where the importance of guidance comes in to help us unwind from the grief, not to how do we solve it, and the guidance really does that for us.
Um, a friend, Star Seeker, said, thank you, Jason, for all of your sharing and kindness.
Yeah.
Um, this has been another deeply meaningful conversation for me, Jason. I appreciate it so much. Um, oh, can I slip in one question? one more
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Um, in A Course in Miracles, how can we release ego barriers to embody the pure, unashamed, unconditional love that dogs express so naturally?
The dogs. Hmm. Well, all that comes to me is that dogs don't really have much of an agenda. Like our cat here, just like Saint Francis, the Christian mystic. Really, he went to the Pope and said he travels to Rome from Assisi because his church got burned down, and all he wants to do is ask the Pope, "Am I doing something wrong? Am I wrong to assume that we can live like Jesus said in the Bible, like the birds that just need a little sip of water and a couple of berries to live? Can man not live that way too?" And I think that's the gift that cats and dogs give us is a simple life. And if we too have a relatively simple life, our needs are low, and whatever needs we have, we trust the spirit will meet them, then that is how we can live like cats and dogs and be happy. So it's like, yeah,
Um, I'm so glad. Well, Roy, it was my friend William who asked that question, and I'm so glad you asked that, William, because one more, just another beautiful answer, uh, Jason, and it reminds me of Thoreau, who wrote "Simplify, Simplify, Simplify."
yeah.
He wrote that in a letter to Ralph Waldo Emerson, who replied back very simply and said, "I think one simplify would suffice." Uh,
We can take that into the new year as our mantra, simplify.
right, if we
I like,
can, just one, simplify.
yeah,
Um, and that is it's a good way to start a new year, isn't it?
yeah,
Simplify,
yeah,
simplify in thought, simplify in action, simplify in needs.
yeah,
Um, and the course really is a simplified path. You can choose the ego, which is okay because you'll just get ego stuff, but it won't make you happy. Or you can choose the Holy Spirit, which will reveal the ever present happiness that is already here.
yeah. That's it.
Thank you for really helping simplify a whole lot, uh, Jason. I very much appreciate it. And I appreciate um, your wholehearted yes when I asked you if you would come up and talk. Uh, you just uh, there was nothing but that full yes, yes, I will. I would love to.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been my joy. Like, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Would you consider sometime in the new year coming up?
Oh, I would love to. This feels great. New year, we can launch the new year. Yeah, that
We
sounds
can.
good.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for your questions. Um, and Jason, I'll send you when this is um, up. I'll go ahead and send it to you if you want to use it or share it. If there's any
Okay.
particular thing that you want clipped, let me know, and I'm happy to do it for you.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
and if you can tell David, I said hi.
Yeah, he
Um,
sends his love to you too. So
oh,
he said
well,
that.
thank you
Yeah.
uh, very much, and thanks, David. All right, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.